we discover an amazing fact that new light presents itself on the scene as this experience, not from additional reading, additional listening to tapes, additional visiting with other people. Not that those things aren't good, and not that those things do not present a great deal of light. Oh, they do. But the real new light that's given us as tangible experience comes as a consequence of living the light that we've already been given. To live the light as it's presented allows us to appear to receive more light. Of course, the honest way to make this statement is that as we live the light that we are, we see the light we are. To live the light we already are is to see the light we've always been. And a child shall lead them. Children teach us all we have forgotten about our own childhood, because children are our childhood. Childhood is pristine and eternal. I could say youth is pristine and eternal, because I mean the same. Childhood is eternal. We live it, and then we learn from it, and then we return to it again. We come home to it again, still blessed, still vibrant, still very much alive. The great wonder of identity revealed as light. The great wonder is always that all of the vibrancy of youth is still here. Always I am amazed, or we are amazed to see that all of the so-called intervening years have done nothing to eliminate it. That all of the trials and tribulations of humanhood have been as nothing. That the youth we are is still present, still alive. Well, the learning period, the period of intellectuality, is an interim adulthood, wherein we try mightily to live all that childhood is not, only to find that it's impossible. Somewhere, I'm sure you've heard these words, lest ye become again as a little child, ye shall in no wise enter the kingdom. So we begin the child, then we try to live the contradistinction, the is not child known as adulthood, or the time of intellectual adultery, only to see that the child is the real, and we come home again. Now listen, there is childlikeness, and then there is childishness. Childishness is the attempt to be the sophisticated, pompous, erudite adult. But childishness teaches us the worth of childlikeness. And we learn that lesson time and again, time and again, time and again, until it's learned. And until that childishness sends us back to childlikeness again, reborn, refreshed, blessed, very much vibrant and very much alive. Oh, I tell you that the child loves the world. The child loves, and I am that child. I am the world that the child loves. Love is not fickle. Love doesn't blow warm one day and cold the next. Love is consistently itself. Love. Love looks and lets. Love understands because it is understanding. Love doesn't condemn itself nor anyone else. Love is not guilty. Love is not restricted. It's not bound. It's not confined nor contained. Love is not beholden to any institution. All institutions that appear to exist by virtue of the fact that love is, if indeed they exist at all. Love is not bound by the institution of marriage at all. And it's silly for any of us, whether we appear to be in that institution or out of it, or a part of it or not a part of it, it is silly to believe that that institution is capable of providing us happiness or depriving us of happiness. It simply can't do it. Not really. Not when we see that love, this identity I am, has the dominion. I have been told by many metaphysicians that they could not see the advantages of simplicity, and that they tend toward profundity instead. Well, so mote it be, because I understand perfectly. It was the same with me once, but it isn't that way now, and I have found a new universe. You see, intellectuality fears the experience of equanimity. It fears it. It's afraid of it. This experience of equanimity, which I usually call tranquility or peace or serenity. But intellectuality is afraid of it because it's afraid it will leave one with an attitude of non-productive, non-advancing, non-progressing lethargy. But these fears are expressed only by those who haven't tried it yet, by those who have never seen nor experienced the gentle simplicity of singleness. Singleness reveals simplicity. Singleness reveals unity, a coming together, a tying up of all of the loose ends, of the mysteries being answered. The end of paradox, the return to simplicity, does not result in an experience of non-seeing lethargy. Great glory, no. Not no, but hell no. Never. Actually communicate. Actually touch the heart and say what it says. And of course, because it does touch the heart and say what it says and allow one to feel the release and to be the truth that one is, the statement itself goes but barely noticed, as it should, but barely noticed. But if ever that statement is examined for its content, why? Most likely it'll be cut to pieces for its simplicity. And that's the way it works. But it's better, it seems, to quit trying to play up to the intellect with the profound statements that give the intellect some sort of a game to play, and at the very least give this intellect some kind of an erudite or profound morsel that it can heave out at another person in order to impress him and show him how smart we are. We let that go sooner or later in order to really communicate the truth that we are by being the truth that we are. Yes, and yes, it's a paradox. There is really a paradox involved. But only to the intellect of us. Only to the sophisticated human nature of us. And it's absolutely true that the intellect should be educated. It is important in the human scheme of things to know how to read and write, how to take care of a garden, or how to enjoy the wonder of things that have no purpose outside their usefulness in our daily affairs. But while the intellect can and within reason should come to understand the nature of things, the images of perception, that same intellect has its limits, simply because the intellect cannot go beyond the thing. It cannot get beyond the thing, to the idea, to the isness, being the thing. The intellect may certainly come to comprehend the minutiae, the bits and pieces, the building blocks. It may weigh and measure all of those building blocks to whatever length human thinking wants to do it or carry it. But the intellect still hangs in there a little lower than the angels. Yea, yea, and nay, nay, said the young carpenter, who found that too many words would inevitably be woven into a crown of thorns. Now these ideas, as we expound them here, are capable of stirring one up, of absolutely setting him on fire. These ideas are capable of flipping one's view of the universe upside down, of showing him harmony and happiness where misery did seem before. But this will not happen until we do become wholeheartedly stirred up. That is, until we look into truth with honesty, with earnestness. There's another statement that says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled." Well, they shall be filled. And we can do it. We can do it because we are it. We are it. But to live this truth as the child, one finds his capacity to love expanding. The sight of a flower, the thought of those that we love, the sound of music, all of these things rush into us and out of us, evoking the warmth of unabashed love, pure love, that embraces all and everything and everyone as itself. But it just isn't my job to convince anyone of this. I'm not trying to convince anyone of it. It is simply my happy privilege to live it and to tell of it to anybody who happens to come this way, interested. It's amazing how many people will come this way but aren't interested in listening. But whether anybody listens or doesn't listen doesn't make any difference either, because the proofs of healing are everywhere to be seen. But even if they weren't, reality would still be very real. To do this enables us to find ever more in everything, even in the already beauty of a daisy, in the already beauty of a blade of grass or a single autumn leaf. The indicator of each one coming forth with his own words, and living his own ideas, and going within and making his own inside the outside. But if it will help, let me say that Oscar Wilde had this to say about simplicity. He said, "Life is not complex. Life is simple. And the simple thing is the right thing." And about Norman Douglas, these are his words: "I can conceive the subtlest and profoundest sage desiring nothing better than to retain, ever undiminished, a childlike capacity for simple pleasures." And boy, there's a mouthful. Winston Churchill said, "All the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word." Walt Whitman, my good friend, Walt Whitman. The art of art, the glory of expression, and the sunshine of the light of letters is simplicity. Nothing is better than simplicity. And Thoreau, simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. I say let your affairs be as 2 or 3, and not 100 or 1,000. Instead of 1,000,000, count half a dozen, and keep your accounts on your thumbnail. And another one that Winston Churchill made that rather points out this thing of contradistinction. He said, out of intense complexities, intense simplicities emerge. Brooks Atkinson said, like the Sermon on the Mount, the doctrine of simplification is a revolution that any man can begin here and now without joining an organization. It is also a revolution that can be won in 5 minutes or half an hour and cost less than the morning newspaper. Well, God bless Brooks Atkinson. I never receive a gift or give a gift, but what I don't reflect again on this unselfish love that giving is. I remember a day a long time ago on a spring walk through the cool mountains here. I stopped to rest by a brook and to take in the beauty of the woods and the new green things along the banks of the stream. On this occasion, my boys weren't with me, nor Ruby. So the sounds of the mountain were more evident than usual. I guess I fell to listening. A long time, I suspect. Well, during the midst of this listening, a buzz of a bee led me to a little small flower hidden along the bank. And I can tell you that then and there, that instant, that blue flower, small as it was, led me into light. As surely as that flower had given its nectar to a bee, in a twinkling it gave its innermost secret to me. I don't really know how to say this, and I suppose the words don't make a great deal of sense, but in an instant, the flower and I were one. But not the flower alone, but the bee and the brook and the forest and the ground and the rocks and everything else. More than that, the mountain, the earth, the universe and I were one. The truth that nothing is external to consciousness became a living fact again as this very consciousness I am. And there was no space. There was no distance to measure, no separation between the bee, the brook, the wood. And of course, because there was no space, there was no time either. Well, in that moment, the lesson of giving became more apparent. Giving is simple, honest being, the identity that one is. Of course, that's not all there is to giving. There is the tangible gift. There is the gift to Caesar, that which is Caesar's. But the giving that I'm talking about here is just the honest being, the identity that one is. This giving is without regard or regret. It is without purpose or motive. This giving wants nothing in return because it knows that all already is, already a fact, already here as only. Well, that little flower, hardly as big as the tip of a twig, blooming without regard or regret for where it was or who passed by, bestowing praise or withholding praise. It was simply busy being a flower, and it would have bloomed its heart out if no one had ever come its way. And the bee worked to the resistlessness of the blossom, which held itself open, and it did not withhold either its nectar or its fragrance or its beauty. It gave all, and it did all these things by the irresistible, effortless action of gently, effortlessly, simply being itself, just being a small blue flower, a flower being a flower. And I couldn't help but note that the flower had no responsibility in the matter, because isness is being the flower and the awareness wherein it grows. Well, so it is that as one returns from the far country of make-believe, identity, apart from isness, he likewise returns to the honesty which is simplicity, and to the simplicity which is honesty. As one consciously is the identity that reality is being, he finds himself giving, as the flower does, as the mountain does, as the earth does, by just being what one is being. Now this effortless activity maybe appears as writing or reading or lecturing or answering questions or corresponding or watching flowers or children or grandchildren grow and prosper, discovering new wonders, but all the while it is the action of truth. It's the action of reality, of isness, God perceiving the illimitable aspects of himself, of itself. This conscious awareness right here, right now, the one you are, is that holy action in action. The world scene is the echo of our own experience. The activity out there is our externalized experience, seen in tangible retrospect. The appearance of life out there is the tangible appearing of this life I am, this life you are. The soldiers, the kids, the police officers, the friends or the enemies are not separate from this one. Here and now, presently, making these words, listening to these words, being these words. That awareness out there is this awareness appearing tangibly in time. The multitudes that we see everywhere are the tangible appearing of the single only identity, the perfect selfhood. Now listen, the perfect selfhood is not self-destructive. It is not doing itself in. It is not waging warfare with itself. It is not even developing and growing apace. It is not even doing away with false beliefs. Only the belief of false beliefs is ending. Self is about the business of disclosing itself to itself. Self is being itself perfectly. Self is not being a false belief to be destroyed. All right, now this doesn't mean that the sights of a youthful rebellion or the communist incursion into what we call our way of life is an illusion. It's not a mesmeric belief, an error, or any other such thing, and most especially it's not a world belief over which we have no dominion or control. Appearances are first understood to be appearances. That is, just a sight being a sight. And then the appearance will be understood for what it is in fact, and not what it seems in appearance. Now, once it is seen for that is for what it is, and lived as that, rather than as what it seems, we will have done all that is required of us. We will not longer be bothered by that appearance. In fact, chances are we'll be blessed by it, or see it change to something else, or at the very least it will appear in a new, more revealing light. And it is certain to appear as infinitely more than anything that we could have ever hoped to see or tried to demonstrate. Well, once again, I'm asked, what is this mess that we see going on in the world? Well, each must answer this for himself. Because how can I tell anyone anything other than what I see? I can't tell you what you see. I tell you what I see. Well, what do I see? What I see out there is the retrospective resurgence of my own youthfulness. The retrospective resurgence of my own youthfulness. It is the retrenchment of my own crystallization of old. I see the shell of old landmarks splitting and being left behind. I see the eternal and already perfect intangible isness or balance presenting itself tangibly. I see the belief of values being removed from appearances to whom or to which belief had given all kinds of idiotic false values. I see the tangible day approaching for the general recognition that a child shall lead them, that lest ye become as children, ye shall in no way enter the kingdom. I see in the out there my own intellectual defeats of times past. I see that which hath been is now, and that which hath already been is now. I see the already perfection of immutable changelessness appearing to belief as an overturning and an overturning until he comes whose right it is. That is, in simple words, I see light becoming tangibly discerned. I see deific good going on. I see absolute perfection disclosing itself tangibly. And of course, to disclose itself tangibly, it requires the sequence of events. As Aldous Huxley said, that sequence that tangibility requires. And what I see out there is not bad. It is not awful. It is not unreal or just a dream going on. It is perfection, being perfect. Neither real nor unreal, but infinitely more. Infinitely more. But it's only just the tangible. There's a lot more than just the tangible, you know. There's the intangible, too. Well, this is the calm view that, or the quiet view, or the balanced view, or whatever you want to call it, that permits me to stand as an unaffected, unjudging witness of the scene I am. And to be a comfort to those who suspect that there must be more in God's design than a world so apparently bent on nutty self-destruction.